Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sports Vault Jersey. Joe Archino back here, and the NFL news, as usual, has been pouring in all day, and yet another big, nice story comes in just now. Sam Bradford agrees on a 2-year, $36 million deal, $26 million of it guaranteed, to remain with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I don't think it's much of a surprise to any of us. I think we all kind of reasonably expected him to stay with them. It's really a new day. It's been a new day there for a while, ever since Chip Kelly was removed as the head coach and Doug Peterson came in and became the new man there. And Peterson was adamant right away that Bradford fit what he wanted to do. And I think you kind of have to go back to square one when Chip Kelly traded Nick Foles for Sam Bradford. And it's one of those things where sometimes you take a guy and you try to put him into something that he might not necessarily be best suited to do. And I think for Chip Kelly, clearly, he tried to take a quarterback like Sam Bradford, who traditionally is not the most athletic, doesn't have the most mobility in the world, and try to fit him into his up-tempo offense. Now, Bradford it wasn't disastrous with him, but clearly, I mean, if you watch the first 8 games of the NFL season, clearly there was struggles with the Philadelphia Eagles, especially on that offensive side of the ball. Clearly not the running game, never really getting a foothold. It didn't help. I mean, really all those moves last season. The DeMarco Murray was the headliner. A lot of people thinking, and myself included, that it was a natural fit to take a guy like Murray with the Eagles, get him in space, and kind of let him go to work. But as we saw very early, DeMarco Murray, that is not his game. His game is using his power to really just bruise his way and get his yards. Getting in space and doing the things that LaShawn McCoy used to do was just not his game. And similar to Bradford, where Bradford, I think maybe his skill set was not best suited to Chip Kelly's system. And it's one of those things where a lot of coaches will try to take players and fit it to their system and instead of trying to fit a system to their players. Some coaches have different philosophies that way. I think for Chip Kelly, his kind of whole philosophy was to get him and make him fit into his system instead of the other way around. But now clearly Bradford is there and we will see how it's going to work out. But one of the things that I think is complicated in the NFL is, if you're a team like the Eagles, this is just a move to help you keep on treading water. Because I think if any of us are reasonable with our expectations, we're not expecting a Super Bowl trophy held up by Sam Bradford for the Philadelphia Eagles. And on that regard, all you're really doing here is delaying the inevitable of when you need to find your franchise quarterback. Now, it's a complicated dynamic in the NFL. It's so hard to win in the NFL. It really is extraordinarily difficult because of the parity in the league and just game in, game out, the amount of preparation and just scheming you have to do. It is so difficult to win in this league, but it's so easy to see what wins in this league, and it really does all start at the quarterback position. Now, I know in the last 3 Super Bowls, defenses have made the plays. You still need a tremendous defense behind you. You need talent on the defensive side, but the better quarterbacks, and you can't get by without one of the best. It's just the way it is. I mean, you look at what Denver did this season, and clearly the better quarterback all year was on Carolina's side, and for that one game, their defense tremendously stepped up. They didn't get the greatest quarterback play this year, but sometimes you can get by in that one-game setting, but to get there, you need the quarterback play. Just look at the games that we saw. I mean, look at the Arizona Cardinals against the Carolina Panthers. If those two rosters get matched up toe-to-toe, maybe Arizona even has a slightly better roster. It's not that far of a difference, but the biggest thing that separated those two rosters was quarterback. Carson Palmer against Cam Newton, gigantic leaps and bounds difference between the talent level of those two guys. It's so complicated in the NFL because it's so hard to win, and it's so hard to find that guy. It's so difficult to find that franchise quarterback who can consistently win you games in this league. It really is. I mean, you see how long it takes certain teams. Sometimes you've had a guy there for 10 years, and then it takes you 15 to 20 years until you can find another comparable replacement. The Browns have been looking since we can't even remember. It took the Dolphins for so long, and I'm not sure any of us are really even still sold on Ryan Tannehill. I mean, it is so difficult in this league to get an Aaron Rodgers or to get an Andrew Luck or to get a Cam Newton, and you just never know. But it's one of those things where a Sam Bradford is kind of a transition quarterback, like I like to call them. It's a guy who's going to buy you time. He's always going to be competitive. He's always going to keep you in football games, but he's never going to get you the biggest prize imaginable. Russell Wilson gets you the biggest prize imaginable. Cam Newton, eventually, when he learns to be a better leader, might bring you that ultimate reward. He certainly has the talent to do so, and I just don't know if we have ever seen that in certain regards. And it's the same thing with a lot of teams. I mean, you look at the NFL, and it really is cyclical. It's so hard to win, but it's cyclical because the same teams are constantly getting there. I mean, you're going to see the Seahawks and the Carolina Panthers going toe-to-toe against one another these next 5 to 6 years in the NFL. The Packers have been there so many times. How many times have we seen the Patriots there? It is a cyclical league. The teams who are in the playoffs are there continuously because they all have the rosters in place, and more important than anything, they all really have the quarterbacks in place. Sometimes you have an outlier like the Arizona Cardinals, but Carson Palmer did have a tremendous regular season. You can't knock him for that, but really, when the games get more important and when there's a little bit more meaning behind them, the true quarterbacks are always going to set themselves apart from one another, and Carson Palmer showed what he has always been, and that is a disappointment when it matters most in comparison to Cam Newton in that game, who just showed what he had shown all season, but it took one game, and defense won in Super Bowl 50. But moving forward, it's just that same thing. All these teams, really, you can circle as many things on the board as you want. You can circle defensive playmakers, you can circle skill position players, but only one of them really matters, and once that position is in place, you can fill out the rest. But quarterback is what wins in the NFL today. It really is. I mean, again, I know it's difficult to fully accept that with how dominant defenses have been in the last 3 Super Bowls, but all those defenses can't do anything and get to that point unless you have a quarterback who's able to make some plays. It's just the way it is. It's the nature of the NFL today. We see shifts in sports sometimes, and certainly in the last 8 years in the NFL, it has come down to it being a quarterback's game, and if you don't have one, you really can't win anything in this league. But the Eagles have their man. They have assigned him to a new deal, and I think for Peterson, it's one of those things where what comparable alternative did you have? There's not much out there. It's probably the logical choice to stay competitive, but at the same time, he's nothing but a transition quarterback. They need a guy who's going to be the face of their team for 10 to 15 years, and it's difficult to find that guy, but we will see when they do find him. Until then, Jersey Joe Archino here with the Sports Vault. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Archino and on Instagram, Jersey_Joe_Archino, and I'll be back next time.